When you're watching a movie, do you ever think, wow, this is a really good movie with great characters and great storyline? Or does your mind go somewhere else completely dark? Like, I wonder what kind of accidents happened on set, because I'm pretty sure that this much action won't lead to injuries and death. I wonder who died too. If you think about the second one, let me give you one tip, and I'm quoting Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help. You're not alone though. I do that too. Like ask if Leonardo DiCaprio really drowned while filming Titanic or something like that. These things are worse though, like The Twilight Zone. It was a movie with 4 parts, where the first scene was the character that Vic Morrow was playing suddenly time traveled back to the Vietnam War. Of all freaking times and eras, the time machine had to put him in the middle of the Vietnam War. Why not go all out and put him in Poland on September 1st, 1939? Or maybe put him in the middle of the Bolshevik Revolution for a change? Worst thing, he did not just travel in time, he also traveled through race. When he got to the Vietnam War period, he became a Vietnamese soldier protecting 2 children from American soldiers. The filmmaker for this movie, John Landis, actually violated the child labor law of California when he hired a 7-year-old Micah Din Lei and 6-year-old Renee Shin Yi Chen without the needed permits. He just went and said, "Hey, you 2 look Vietnamese enough. You're hired." And then the parents agreed to it. After all, it's exposure. They just didn't know where they would be exposed to. It was explosives and helicopters. The children were paid without reports to either minimize the amount of taxes they had to pay or to just go under the radar of the state, because the law stated that children were not allowed to work at night. The first part of the movie was filmed in the Indian Dunes in Santa Clarita, California. It had the perfect space to shoot war movies because you can fire explosives in it, and it didn't have any city lights near it. Then there was a night scene where Vic Morrow's character is carrying the 2 children of the war-torn village through a shallow river while being chased by American soldiers in a helicopter. The only thing close to assurance for the safety of the film was that the helicopter was piloted by Dorsey Wingo, a Viet vet. The helicopter went less than 2 meters in the air, going over a tool that was used to make fake explosions. When he turned the helicopter 180 degrees for the next camera shot, the tool detonated while the helicopter was still near it. The helicopter went and did fadeaway jump shots spinning around out of control. So Vic Morrow threw the girl to the water, hoping it'll be safer that way. It wasn't safer that way. After the helicopter finished, it crashed onto Vic Morrow and the 2 other children. Vic Morrow and the little boy got their heads chopped off, and the little girl was crushed when the helicopter drifted to her direction. The day of the trial came, and the defense said the explosions were fired at the wrong time, which was definitely another way of saying, oh no, I accidentally killed 3 people because of negligence. I'm the victim here. Don't put me in jail, in the 80s. And then the assistant cameraman in the helicopter, Randall Robinson, said that the production manager told the pilot that it was too much and they needed to get out of there when the explosions were fired, but the director John Landis shouted, telling them to go lower and lower. Randall said that the pilot tried to leave the area but they lost control. They got the control after a short moment, and then they felt something let go. Right after that, the helicopter just spun my head right round. When you go down, baby, go downtown. It looked like the entire film crew was not on good terms with John Landis because another cameraman in the helicopter said that Landis shrugged off the warnings about the stunt and said, "We may lose the helicopter." That's a very assuring statement coming from a director who definitely knows what he's doing, definitely knew what he did there. The trials and the lawsuits lasted nearly a decade. All the parents said they were never told that there would be helicopters or explosives on set, and they've been told that there's no war in Ba Sing Se, only noise. The little boy's father went to America because of the actual war, and he literally had Vietnam flashbacks when he was seeing everything happen. Even Steven Spielberg, who co-produced the movie, unfriended Landis after the incident. But hey, at least they got their scene. Completely reminiscent of the Vietnam War. The Crow. Bruce Lee was a great martial artist and actor. His son Brandon wanted to follow his father's example. But what can your martial arts do if I shoot you with a gun? It was the 31st of March 1993, and the movie The Crow was starred by Brandon Lee. It happened during the filming of a scene where Brandon's character, Eric Draven, is supposed to be shot when he entered his apartment. Well, you don't get to use a real gun, because this is only acting. Have you seen Mark Ruffalo transform to 15 feet and be all green and muscular when he plays the Hulk? No. Same thing with this. A prop gun was used in the scene, and it was a revolver that had been loaded with dummy bullets for the close-up shots beforehand. Just in case you don't know what a dummy bullet is, it's a bullet that can't spell, nah, it's still a real bullet. It just doesn't have gunpowder or anything that can make it a threat to life, but it still hurts if you throw it to someone's head. And well, the dummy bullets weren't properly reassembled because a live primer had been left in one of them. The crew didn't notice this, and when it was time to lights, camera, action, it's meant to just make a flash but not actually fire a bullet. Okay, now the cameras are rolling, and Michael Massey, another actor in the film, pointed the gun to Brandon Lee, then boom, pulled the trigger. The blank bullet fired the gunpowder, pushing the other bullet out of the gun and then straight to Brandon's abs. Brandon Lee tumbled and started saying ouch, ouch, ouch while he's holding his stomach. Great acting! This is realistic acting. What workshop did he go to? Probably said by the crew thinking he was still acting, but not anymore, cause a bullet actually went to his body. The ouch, ouch, ouch continued until he was brought to New Hanover Regional Medical Center in Wilmington, North Carolina, where he underwent an emergency surgery. And instead of entering the dragon like his dad, he entered the afterlife, straight to his dad's nunchucks. When investigations happened, it was discovered that there were a lot of interns that were definitely inexperienced when it comes to handling props because the movie's budget was very tight. Not only that, the crew members actually had some safety procedures orientation, but they either did not follow that or just completely ignored the fact that they were actually needed in the set because it is a very dangerous scene overall. Another problem that they faced was there was no actual weapons specialist or armorer on set. The person in charge of firearms was a prop master and did not have the experience to make sure that handling the props was actually safe, because it did have a qualified person for that matter. Brandon Lee would still probably be making movies right now and doing some flying kicks like his dad did. But it turns out, The Crow turned out to be Brandon's last film, and it was actually completed, and it was released in 1994, with the help of Brandon's actual scenes when he was still alive, and some movie magic CGI and things like that, and then a body double. Tragic, but it is what it is. Top Gun. What, you think Tom Cruise and his Top Gun movies were actually a big success? Well, to be fair, it is. All of the earnings in total came close to about $1 billion, if not $1 billion overall. But if you're forgetting what the title of this video is, yeah. There were also some things that aren't necessarily on the bright side of the road when it comes to this movie. Art Scholl was an experienced stunt pilot and aerobatics instructor. He was known by a lot of pilots because of how he performed and how perfect he was with handling planes and all that. He was called by the Top Gun directors, and the reason for that is because it was actually intended to make the movie a lot more believable. Because hey, it's Art Scholl, it's a very good pilot, why not bring him in to get a lot more money? Some things like that, probably. On the day that they were shooting, the pilot was driving a Pitts S2 camera plane to get some background plates for the fighting scenes in the sky. You needed to do a flat spin, which was a very difficult move, that's why he was the perfect man for it. But when his plane did the spin, Art Scholl wasn't able to recover from this spin. The last words that was reported he said over the radio were, "I have a problem." It was actually followed by another words. He said, "I have a real problem." When an awesome pilot with an awesome experience tells you that he has a problem with his plane, that means he has a problem and he's on the verge of literally going down. After that, the plane spiraled out of control and nosedived into the Pacific Ocean, and it was just on the coast of Southern California. They were quick rescuing operations, trying to look for the plane and the pilot, but none of them were found, which was definitely weird. Maybe because Amelia Earhart probably found them, and maybe brought them to wherever she is right now. Well, they definitely continued filming the movie. I mean, if it wasn't continued, then it wouldn't have the $100 million+ box office in 1986. The Conqueror. This one did not have any accidents, which was a good thing, but it was more of a long-term thing that everyone had. This movie was directed by Dick Powell, haha, and the main actors here were John Wayne, Susan Hayward, and Pedro Armendariz. Don't get me wrong, the movie was a complete flop. The production of the movie happened in the desert, or the St. George in Utah, just south of the Nevada test site, where the US government would be experimenting with lots of nuclear weapons and all that to prepare for the Cold War, because this was just, I don't know, a few years after the Second World War, so I get it why they were doing that. So of course, being a test site for a lot of the nuclear weapons, it's going to be a place filled with radioactive fallout. Shout out Imagine Dragons. And it wasn't only on that specific side where the fallout is. You think the fallout that happened in Chernobyl just stayed in the area where the explosion happened? Exactly, no. In fact, the fallout went to the actual place where the movie was being filmed. Then they shot a lot of scenes there for a lot of weeks, so yeah, they were getting the Nagasaki and Hiroshima treatment for that one. John Wayne was like, "Wow, this is a very great set, I would definitely bring my sons in here," to which he actually did. Then the other actors spent months there, just inhaling radioactive dust and dirt without even knowing that they were being exposed to radioactive things. Shout out again, Imagine Dragons.
I wonder what it's like to breathe radioactive things.
Are you seriously stupid thinking about that question? And why are you here again anyway? You've been missing in action for about a few episodes now. What makes you think you can come back?
I don't know. It's good money, and I also had to recover from everything you did to me.
Fair enough. Well, to answer your question, inhaling anything radioactive will destroy many tissues and organs in your body and would give you a lot of diseases. You want some of that?
No, thank you. I'm good.
Well, it doesn't matter if you're good or not. So here you go. A sprinkle of nausea and vomiting, your skin is now red, you are now bold, and you also have acute radiation syndrome. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. There you go. You're now dead again. Well, it wasn't my fault that he asked. Going back to the story, the crew also brought radioactive soil back to Hollywood for some reshoots. Good job for that, set crew of The Conqueror. That's the best way to terrorize your coworkers who you do not like. Also removes the competition you know. After the movie flopped, many of the cast and crew members had cancer. And then by the early 1980s, the report said that about 91 of the 220 people in the film's production got some form of cancer one way or another, with 46 of them dying. Well, I guess terrorizing your coworkers you do not like kind of backfired on these set crew. John Wayne, for example, died of stomach cancer in 1979. Susan Haywood died of brain cancer in 1975. Agnes Moore died of uterine cancer in 1974. The director Dick, Powell died of cancer in 1963. And what a freaking story. The movie flopped. The actors flopped. The director flopped. Everything flopped. Fitzcarraldo. It was a movie that was completely absurd when it came to the kind of production they did. Along with this completely absurd production, there were a lot of other things that happened in this one. So they were filming in a random jungle in Peru, and the director Werner Herzog had a vision for the movie. His vision was pulling a 320-ton steamship over a steep hill without any use of special effects, which he personally insisted on doing. Like, dude, combine all the strongmen today plus all the bodybuilders in history, and they still wouldn't be able to pull that over a very steep hill, let alone a crew of average build and strength. I mean, if you have a Sisyphus or Atlas in your crew, then sure, why not? Ask him to push or pull the steamship over that hill that weighs around 320 tons, go ahead. But if you don't have any of those mythological people, why do you not want to use special effects for this? It's not like Paul Rudd would suddenly grow 2,000 feet just to film Ant-Man, right? They also had to do special effects for that. The logistics during that time when this movie was being filmed was fire on fire on fire. Add the fact that they are in a jungle in Peru, which is basically the Amazon rainforest already. I promise you, you wouldn't want to be an actor if this was the case. You might as well film Survivor Series and have Bear Grylls do a cameo for that. One of the accidents that happened here was when a small plane that was used for scouting and bringing the crew from one place to another did a Kobe Bryant in a very dense jungle with 4 of its crew members dying. This was just one of the accidents that happened here. And yeah, I'm convinced now that they were basically filming Survivor Series because it was not only just a plane crash. Being in the jungle itself is like putting honey on your body while being in the middle of a beehive. I sound like ChatGPT doing that kind of analogy, but trust me, I'm human. Anyway, being in the middle of the jungle means you have to be healthy. If not, then it's inevitable that you will get a lot of diseases. Dysentery, malaria, and other things and diseases that you will get from tropical areas became a normal thing for these crew members and actors. Well, that certainly was the case for these crew members and actors. Jason Robards, who was supposedly the one acting in the lead role, was hit by dysentery and had to bug out of the project with only 40% of the film being shot by him. Welp, they had no choice but to get another person for the lead role, because what's the use of only 40% of the film being shot if you're going to finish the movie with a different lead actor? It's just inconsistent as hell. So Werner Herzog hired John Krasinski for the role. No? Not John Krasinski? Oh, it's Klaus Kinski. Well, just to give you a little information about who Klaus Kinski is basically the 80s version of Ezra Miller. If I had to still explain to you who Ezra Miller is, yeah, that's going to be up to you now. Google is a thing, look it up. So now, the production crew has 3 things to mind: the weather of the Amazon rainforest, the diseases that they may possibly get and have already gotten that they need to cure but they can't because they are in the middle of a jungle, and there is no modern medicine available during that time because once again, they are in the middle of the jungle, and now they have Klaus Kinski. Wow, this is an all-star team if you want to have a very massive headache as a part of the production crew. So Kinski is the kind of person that's always on the verge of snapping. And that proved to be the case because there were a lot of confrontations and incidents on set that all involved him. He had tantrums like a 7-year-old kid when he didn't get what he wanted. But in the end, they had to finish the film and it performed decently at the box office. Well, at least it wasn't like The Conqueror. Roar. This movie was often called the most dangerous film ever made, and it's called that for a very good reason. It took too long to produce, there were so many things that happened when it comes to dealing with what they had, and a lot of the crew members and even the casts went through a very dangerous mission, and that is to film the movie. They knew what they signed up for, but it wasn't what they did. Tippi Hedren and Noel Marshall were the actors in the film, and they also produced it probably to save on the budget because they were probably close to being broke. I don't know. To film this movie, they initially looked for professional help on raising exotic animals, but the experts actually advised them to raise these animals themselves. Great job, experts! What a way to make another Siegfried and Roy. Well, they followed the advice, and they got a lot of big cats, and they kept these big cats on a ranch outside Los Angeles. The movie was supposed to be produced in only 9 months, but it actually took a lot more time than that, specifically 5 years, all because they got so many big and wild cats that were still untrained. I mean, if they wanted a trained cat, they could have just asked Mike Tyson for it. He has one, and it's pretty tame. Even if it wasn't, Mike would just jab, hook, and uppercut the big cat to tranquilize it. Yeah, the cats were still untrained, and were still basically wild in terms of their instincts and their attitude, but Tippi and Noel said, you know what, we're running out of budget. We might as well film the movie now. And so they did. The only problem was, since these cats were still not fully trained, it's basically inevitable that there will be some mishaps, or should I say little setbacks along the way. One of these little setbacks that happened in the way was that cinematographer Jan de Bont had his scalp lifted, raised, chewed off, ripped by a lion, and it required about 220 stitches. So much for a shampoo, I guess. Head & Shoulders definitely lost a customer that day. Tippi Hedren was also one of the victims of these attempts to be Dr. Dolittle. She had a lot of injuries throughout the entire span of filming. She had a lot of wounds all over her body after being thrown off an elephant's back of all places. Do you have any idea how high a back of an elephant is? To give you a visual, here's a little bit of an analogy with this. Imagine you're sleeping on top of a basketball rim, then you fall off right on your back. That's how high an elephant's back is. Well, not only that, Tippi also got bitten by a lion on the neck. What in the name of Jumanji is happening? Her daughter also had her eye almost pulled out. And if you think that's all, Noel Marshall himself was also chewed. He was clawed by a cheetah, and he got gangrene from it. Just to film a goddamn movie, they had to risk their lives every single day for 5 entire years. Jesus Christ, on a motorbike wearing a helmet and a jacket. And even if all those things already happened, the directors were too determined to stop because they were past the halfway point already. So, what did they do? They finished the movie. They tried to redeem themselves a little bit, so they released Roar in 1981. It cost them about $17 million, plus 150 untrained big cats, and a little bit of 70 injuries among the cast and crew. Good job, Roar. I really hope you don't flop in the box office they did. All that fighting with life every day just to flop in the box office. Well, that's okay. At least some people will get to watch it on the internet nowadays, except that it's not going to be paid. It's going to be pirated. Or maybe you can have a partnership with Netflix and have your movie posted there. To be completely honest, the behind the scenes was more fun telling compared to the synopsis of the exact film. If I told students to make an essay about this one, it would basically be the end of Macbeth. The Exorcist. I don't know about you, but this movie was said to be filled with curses just like how the movie exactly was. But for me, I think it was just the nocebo effect of it, given that they were shooting a very scary horror movie. If you don't know what nocebo means, it's basically the opposite of placebo. What happened here was that the leading role played by Jack McGowan died from influenza during an epidemic shortly after filming all of his scenes. Many people believe that this was connected to the curse of making a horror movie, but they didn't realize that it was influenza. It was scientifically proven to kill people like Jesus Christ. Another one, Vasiliki Maliaros, also died after filming all of her parts. She died from natural causes, and that made people who were involved in making the movie really scared because they thought to themselves that they might be the next. Yep, they were right. Linda Blair was the actress that played the possessed girl, and Ellen Burstyn, who played the mother of the possessed girl, had some really bad injuries on set. Laura got a back injury where her character was violently thrown around, and then Burstyn also had her back injured when she was quote-unquote thrown to the ground by an unseen force. It was a damn production malfunction. It wasn't a mystery that they got injured. You know what a mystery is? Flat earthers. That's the real mystery. But that's the kind of mystery that people would not dare to talk about, because they might get canceled over something that's completely weird and irrational. Another quote-unquote cursed thing that happened was that a fire broke out and destroyed a lot of this set. This delayed production by a long shot, and the cause of the fire was never determined. That was how they started to believe that some unseen creature was playing around with them. But it was more theorized that it was caused by electrical failures, which was a more realistic hypothesis compared to a ghost. I'm telling you, there were a lot of things that happened to the cast and crew members of this movie that everyone was thinking, hey, we might be cursed, which was certainly and definitely not the case. The director actually had fun with this because he wanted to get genuine reactions from the actors. Let me give you an example. He'd fire guns near the actors to surprise them and get the look of shock and fear. But this wasn't really that good except for the fact that it gave the director William Friedkin the reaction that he wanted. Because what if someone there was a war veteran or a soldier and they heard the gunshot? It would be Vietnam War flashbacks for them and PTSD would be triggered. I will admit that those were some pretty weird instances in which a lot of deaths and injuries happened, but that definitely was not the work of a ghost. It was a combination of poor management, electrical wirings, and big-time coincidences. And now I'll bring you to the post-credits scene of this video, where everything will just either turn black or the video will stop.